Hi, welcome to
I
South
am so
Dakota.
excited to be connected with you out from South Dakota, out here to the exploration vessel Nautilus. So, everyone who's following along has just made this super fast journey from where you are out to the coast of California and out to the exploration vessel Nautilus.
Wow. So tell us what you're doing out there. I mean, I'm seeing all this cool stuff in the background, and before we started, you said you were
Yes.
working on some autonomous vehicles. So we are so curious what's happening. And my name is Anne, by the way.
My name is Megan Cook. I'm the Director of Education and Outreach for Ocean Exploration Trust, who's the team who operates Nautilus. And out here, I'm sailing as the communication lead. So I keep saying Nautilus, but let me show you where I am right now. The 224-foot long vessel. I'm sitting just in front of that thing that looks like a golf ball. That is our stabilized satellite system that allows us to connect what's happening on the ship and underwater in the deep ocean with the whole world and anyone following along on nautiluslive.org. And I'm sitting just forward of that inside our command center. So that's what you see over my shoulder, sort of like every monitor in the world in here as our team of engineers and scientists and communication professionals, educators, and students all come together to be able to operate vehicles down in the deep sea. So let me show you a little of what we normally do, and then I'll tell you a little about the expedition that we're on right now, which is a little different. So, generally, when we explore the ocean, we send remotely operated vehicles, ROVs as an acronym. And you can think about these like robots on leashes. This is ROV Hercules. It is about the size of a Jeep and equipped with cameras, lights, different types of instruments and sensors that can tell us about the deep sea. This is kind of like our eyes and our hands in the deep sea while we stay safely up here on the ship. What's great about ROVs is that they are connected with that leash back to the ship. So they don't need battery power, and we get constant communication back to the ship and to where we are. Now, the challenges of ROVs are that they are connected to the ship. So you can only kind of have one team of them at a time. So, what this mission is all about is testing some different technologies that we could add on to become more efficient and accelerate how fast we can learn about the ocean. And those technologies are called AUVs or autonomous underwater vehicles. So, one of those AUVs is this kind of transformer here named Nui. It has barn doors that open up on the front and has those same manipulator arms and sensors and tools. But when it is closed up, this is a live shot of the deck right now. You can see that it is kind of a streamlined shape and that it's able to launch off the vehicle. So we just hooked a tether onto Nui, but normally it travels without one. So we're testing out how these robots can work together and also how the teams can work together because that's a big part of it, is learning from one another and figuring out how we can all go forward to explore the ocean faster.
Wow. So I've seen some of your uh, other explorations, and there's the putting the ROV in the water is a big part of that, and you were using it for mapping the ocean floor. There's
Mhm.
some exploration into the kinds of animals and whatnot that you see on there, but this sounds completely different. Is this like super cut? I'm getting the feeling this is like super cutting edge. Like nobody else is really doing this.
Yeah, it really is. This is a partnership that's new for us called the NOAA Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute. And as silly as this is, I think about it a little like a team of Avengers. This has brought together some different organizations who are all really good at one part of exploration. And it's kind of challenging us, issuing us this challenge to work together and to, do more so that 1 + 1 + 1 equals, 100 instead of just like a little bit of additive. So the vehicles that we have on board right now are from one of our cooperative institute partners, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and they are excellent vehicle developers. So they had the vehicle Nui and also another robot we have on board named Mesobot that have kind of these unique talents of what they do. And what we're trying to do more of is that combination. We go to sea, we explore, so we bring that expertise of kind of operationalizing this, right? Doing it every day and we're taking some experimental vehicles and kind of folding them in. So autonomous vehicles, self-driving robots have come a really long way in the last few decades. But kind of getting them to play along with remotely operated vehicles, that's the new challenge.
You can probably see over my shoulder, I have a lot of, like, Lego, space exploration things,
Hmm.
and one of the things I was surprised to learn was just how much we don't know about our oceans. Like, it's sort of like space in that regard. So what are some of the things that you are hoping these A AOVs, is that right? Will help you be able to
AUVs,
do
yeah.
that you currently can't do?
Well, a lot of the things are very connected to space as well. Many of the things we're developing and testing are what we call analogs for space. It's like our best on Earth representation of what we could do for a space mission. It's kind of like practicing here with the tools we have before you send it out into space. So, some of the software development that's happening with the AUV and ROV combination is about how we could use it on other ocean worlds and other planets. Things like how can we connect a untethered vehicle to operators ashore. For a long time, we've connected them with scientists. You can watch the live stream and say, hey, that would be an interesting sample. I'd love to take that. But we're now taking it a step farther. Could you have the people piloting the ROVs be ashore? What kind of telecommunications networks would you need? What kind of software would you need? What kind of safety checks would you need the people who are on the ship looking out for? So it's a super tight parallel to think about how these things can help us do more in the ocean and eventually do more in space or do more in space oceans, just to take it that step further.
That is a what space oceans. Wow. I mean, I'm trying to get
Mhm.
my mind around that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to sit with that one for a while.
Sure.
Uh, so I'm going to pivot a little bit in our questions. I know that when we've had our fifth graders with you before, there's a huge amount of interest of what is life like on a ship? What are some of the things that you do? How do you live? Those of us of a certain age, we remember the Jacques Cousteau, Calypso, National Geographic specials back in the day. So, what's similar? What's different? What if somebody wants to do this? What can they expect?
Yes, there's less wine than the Calypso days if you're a person of that age. We have a great teaching and learning environment here on Nautilus. So there are new people on board all the time having their first experience at sea through our internship programs or our teacher fellowships. They're great ways to get new, fresh people on board. So it's a really exciting environment. I just start with that everyone is, kind of, you wake up to see the sunrise in the morning. It's beautiful, but on board a ship, you usually have a roommate. Most of our cabins are doubles. You have bunk beds, which is kind of a fun throwback. You can negotiate with your roommate who wants the top bunk and who wants the bottom one. The ship has a mess, which is what we call a cafeteria, and a fantastic crew and team of stewards who cook all your meals for you, plus cookie hour at 3 o'clock and ice cream sundaes on Sunday. So it's a really, they take great care of us. The food is fantastic, and that makes it easy to work 24 hours a day. Which we do on the ship. Once you send a ship to sea, you want to get as much exploration packed into the time that you have as you can. So we divide up into watch shifts. So you could decide, everyone at home, which your favorite might be. There's a 12 to 4, which means you work from noon to 4 p.m. and midnight to 4 a.m. There's the 4 to 8, the 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., or the 8 to 12 for those, kind of like late morning folks from 8 a.m. to noon and 8 p.m. to midnight. And then we just rotate the teams in here in the control room around and around and around the clock. And since robots don't need to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, and remotely operated robots don't need to have their batteries charged, we can just stay down and work around the clock. There's also a gym and a lounge, so there's nice social spaces in addition to, being the places where we go and work all day.
So it sounds like you're not suffering too much, but other than being in cramped quarters and you know, for me, I've been on a ship once, and the weather was always kind of, we had a couple of days of rough seas, so I
Mm.
I got a little
Yeah, you have
seasick.
to always be prepared for that. I get seasick too, and I always tell students that, like, there are oceanographers who never go to sea. And there are lots of oceanographers who get seasick. So, don't let that stop you. I personally, get a little green sometimes, but you can see it's a beautiful flat day here off the coast of California. Kind of flat light, just a little wave, groundswell, even if you're a little, you get your sea legs eventually. And even if you're a little green for a day or two, I would never want that to stop me from this work that I love. So, kind of push that uncomfort a little bit, because there are great opportunities, to work in an ocean field, whether it is at sea or just with a passion for the ocean. If you love math and love accounting, guess what? Ocean organizations need accountants too. We have artists who come to see. There's lawyers and HR professionals and communicators and filmmakers and all kinds of folks who can be part of sort of Team Ocean, whether or not going to sea or not is part of your day-to-day work.
That's really good to hear because we are in South Dakota, and I think at one point, I don't know if the GIS has confirmed this, there was a place in our state which is smack dab in the middle of continental North America. So we are about as
Cool.
far as you can get from an ocean anywhere in the world, in this hemisphere. So could you talk a little bit about why the ocean matters to those of us who live here, who are far from it? Many people haven't even seen an ocean. What's the big deal about oceans?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. And I want to let you all know that I am from the great oceanography state of Idaho originally. So, you can find your way to the ocean from wherever you grow up. But the ocean is part of our life every single day, even if you've never been to it. The ocean, we all thank trees for making oxygen, and we do love our trees and our grasses and our other plants. But it's actually tiny plants in the ocean that make half the oxygen we breathe. So I joke about it, but I do like to breathe 24 hours a day. So 12 of those hours are courtesy brought to you by the ocean. The ocean also feeds billions of people. It's an essential source of protein and inspirational and connection. It is also how we move our stuff around the world. So, some estimates say 90% of your things in a US house have traveled across an ocean in a shipping container, even if you've never been across an ocean journey. So, it's a place that also is critical to kind of the global world that we live in. And I know South Dakota, you may not have any oceans, but you certainly have streams and the headwaters of some fantastic American rivers. And so everything that happens there does eventually find its way to the ocean by moving down through watersheds and through the groundwater, uh, through streams to rivers out to the Missouri, to the Mississippi, out to the Gulf of Mexico. And then that water returns to you driven by the climate engine that is the ocean. So storms and evaporation, the water cycle that you may know, or you may need to dust off those memories to remember, is powered by the ocean and by everything that's happening in the health of the ocean out there to bring, critical rain to crops and critical regulation of those cold South Dakota winters, and those hot summers. So you have the ocean in those parts of your life too.
Yeah, it's going to be 93 today. So, and we're hoping that we don't
Woo!
get a hard frost in the next 2 weeks. Because this is a time of year when anything can happen. So, partly because we are so far from the ocean that we get these extremes. One of the things we've talked a lot about in prior years around this is plastic in ocean. That National Geographic has had a big initiative about that, and prior other students, they've been really curious about when you go send down your vehicles, are you finding plastic?
Unfortunately, yes. I've sailed with Nautilus for 9 seasons now, 9 years, and there's only a single expedition I've ever been on where I did not personally see trash on the seafloor. So we are going places humans have never ever seen, but sadly, our trash has beat us there. It has gotten down to the seafloor and been there before we arrive. So, and the challenges are it is extremely difficult, borderline impossible, to remove trash from the ocean once it is there, especially small plastics. Because any filtration, anything that is there is also filtering out all the teeny tiny and different size and scale ocean animals and ocean life that have important jobs to do as well. And For example, with our ROV, we can't really pick up trash because it's a really good way to get a multi-million-dollar ROV tangled in the seafloor to pick up, things like line or nets, or even just large bulky plastics. So the best things we can do, if you are as concerned as I am about us finding plastic in deep parts of the ocean and far away from our coasts, is to prevent it from ever getting there in the first place. And there's a few things you could do every day. Is consider what products you're purchasing. If you have something that breaks, think about how you could maybe repair it or rework it into something else before it goes right in the trash can. And then the other thing is, it seems silly to say a trash can lid will be the answer to the problem, but a thing that can really go a long way is making sure trash doesn't escape our normal trash management systems, like by blowing in the wind and getting out into roads or into fields or into streams, but capturing it before it starts like hopping on the conveyor belt that is a river out to an ocean and an ocean out to the seafloor.
That is great, a great perspective, and I'm kind of horrified about what you said about finding trash and everywhere.
Yeah.
9 years, only one time you haven't. That's really not. It kind of makes me feel sad. One of the
Yeah.
projects we've worked on in the past is encouraging people to use Debris Tracker, which is a citizen
Mm.
science project where you can go and map the trash as you pick it up, and that way you're seeing where the concentrations are. So, and that then lends itself to thinking about, well, what can we do to keep trash from congregating where we know where there's a lot of it coming in? um, because even though, like you said earlier, we're far from the ocean, it does break down and it does wash into the river, and that will end up in the ocean eventually, which is a huge bummer. So there are things we can do, and I really like that message that just by picking up trash, we're helping protect our oceans.
Absolutely. And that sounds like a really exciting project. One of the other things that I'd encourage anyone checking this out to see as a great, community-led solution to trash, and I think they are hilarious, is Baltimore City's Mr. Trash Wheel, Professor Trash Wheel. And now they've expanded. I think there's 4 or 5 trash wheels in Baltimore Harbor. And these are solar powered conveyor belts that pick up trash out of the river during flood systems, during, rainy weather that brings, kind of washes trash down into the harbor. And these conveyor belts pick up the trash before it ever gets to the ocean. They're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they have very funny little trash wheel personalities that they've given them. But it's a great way for the community to, come together and pick up trash. And so I love that idea and would love to see what other communities do with it around the country and around the world.
Oh, that's great. Absolutely. Another topic of high interest to the people who have participated before is the wildlife that you see. And I know this is mostly about testing your new vehicles, which is super exciting. But with 9 years experience, what is the most amazing thing you've seen? And what is your favorite thing, like the thing you'll always hope you'll see when you go to sea?
Oh my gosh, it has to change every time. I find it's so hard to pick one answer and just stick with it. But we've just gotten to witness some absolutely incredible things. Let me pull up. I actually think I have the clip right here. Let me pull it up and share it with you all. I love that the ocean proves me wrong often. As a communicator, I was on an expedition in the Gulf of Mexico and had just gotten done giving an explanation to say, the ROV makes a lot of sound. It has bright lights. I don't know that we'd ever see something as big as a whale. I think it would probably stay away from us. And then uh, less than an hour later, out of the gloom, now look closely here as you go, you start to see this giant face emerge just out of the corner of the screen. And then from our ROV Hercules looking down at Argus, you get this entire glimpse of this sperm whale. This is a teenage boy sperm whale, a sub adult, and it spent 22 minutes circling the ROV, just checking us out, and never ever made contact. It was in total control of this encounter, which is beautiful. You're seeing its chin, now the underside of its flipper there, and its tummy as it comes right by all of the cameras. So we're sitting up here on the ship, and 1,000 meters below us, we're switching through all of our cameras to take a look around at this animal just coming and really exploring us, I think, as we were exploring the ocean. And it was absolutely incredible. I'm anthropomorphizing here. I'm putting human thoughts in a whale's mind, but I kind of imagine that it was, thinking that its mom had never told it about big giant robots in the ocean. And here we were in its environment, checking it out. And what was cool beyond the moment that we just got to enjoy this was also that people all around the world could share with it on nautiluslive.org. And also, we could bring researchers in to say, I'm not a sperm whale expert, but let's find a sperm whale expert and tell us about this behavior. Tell us about, that's how we identified its general age and its sex. And, we got to learn all about this moment. And again, just the ocean is full of surprises. And I was completely surprised.
Yeah. How far down was it? I mean, how far down was the ROV?
Almost 1,000 meters, so almost 3,000 feet.
Holy
On that
moly.
encounter in the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, our ROVs dive to 4,000 meters as their max depth, or 13,000 feet, or it's fall, so football season, maybe 40 football fields if you like to measure in football fields. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, there's a whole lot more questions I could say, but I know you need to run and I need to run, and this has been fascinating. And so this will be on the South Dakota Discovery Center's Facebook Live as well as our YouTube channel. And so we will put that out there, tag you in all of our tweets. And thank you so much, Megan. This has been fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
It is my pleasure. I love getting the chance to talk with you and to share the ocean with everyone in South Dakota. Just remember that you can follow along with us on Nautilus Live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Ask your questions to explorers and be there as we expand what we know about this spectacular planet that we all share and live on. So I look forward to exploring with you more soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Safe travels.